Welcome to the show. Greg Sheldon here. Thank you for coming. I appreciate your time, and I know this is going to be valuable. I just hope you can put the time to going through it. I think first, the best place to start is if we talk about something that was done with me that was really impactful. And what it was a strategy that we'll go through right now. So if you have a pen or paper, please get them, because I think it's valuable to write it down. So grab those. We'll start in just a second. So I want you to think of that person that you admire the most. Could be a mentor. It could be somebody you worked for, that one boss that really inspired you, or your dad, your mom, your grandmother, your grandfather, or maybe it was an uncle or a cousin, anybody that inspired you and you weren't sure exactly why, but there were some things about them that would lead you to following them into anything without question. So think of those words. There's some words. When I did this on the person, I wrote down their name. Okay? I wrote down their name. So let's say their name is Joe. Okay? So think of 3 words that come to mind when you think of that person. Is it honesty, integrity, no fear, unshakable morals, faithful, loyal? What is it? Write those words down, just like I have on the paper here. So let's just use, no fear, loyal, honest. And those are just examples. That could be any words. If you got those written down, I'm going to tell you something really interesting. Those words, because they came from you, are actually qualities you possess. You have those in you. And your ability to lead is already within you. And today we're going to talk about how to bring that out. And we're going to look at it through a financial lens. Because as we go through this, you're going to see why leaders understand their financials and how that creates a picture for the leader to ask questions without micromanaging, without having to look at their cameras constantly. It really is a snapshot into what's happening in your business for so many reasons. So that leads us to leading by understanding your financials to find and keep good people. So the truth is, people follow those who know where they're going. So how are we going to get you there? That's the question. And we can look at that. We can look in history and in time, even just, right now. We look at the world's leaders. They have a plan. They know where they're going. They have a lot of confidence, and the reason they have that confidence is because they have a plan and they know where they're going. So you want your people to look at you like that, and this is where we're going to start. But I think really key, the first couple things to talk about are, most businesses focus on building revenue. In a lot of cases, that's wrong. So I show business owners like you, or intermediaries, business brokers, management, whoever it is, that we can double profit within 3 hours or less without increasing sales. Sales, and I don't want you to get the wrong impression. Revenue, sales, turnover, income, whatever you want to call that, they're all the same thing, are important. But they're not as important as profit, because that feeds your family and your legacy. Revenue feeds your ego. The traditional business model is that we've all been taught, and it's logical to think this way. And I have been guilty of this too. We all have been. That, okay, we're going to get a consultant, or we're going to build a business, and we're going to increase the revenue. That's great. But sometimes that can lead to costs of things in the business that you didn't anticipate. Maybe you need to buy a new piece of equipment, or whatever you need to invest in, that's increasing your costs, which is bringing your profits down. So the important thing here is that our profits are the main focus, because they feed your family and they feed your ego. They feed your family and your legacy, not your ego. Revenue feeds your ego. So I can show you exactly how to do this, and I'll show you some in this presentation. But certainly I can't give everything away, or I'd be poor. So does that interest you? I hope it does, because that's why we're here. So a little bit about me. Several years ago, I started a venture in mergers and acquisitions to gain clout in the marketplace by buying companies. And in that process, I knew I wasn't smart enough to do it all myself. But I was smart enough to know that I needed to get people around me. They're wiser, smarter, know more, can see around corners that I couldn't see around. So in that process, I have been exposed to and advised and mentored by world-class accountants, lawyers, investment bankers, entrepreneurs, and these people advise me to this day, and I listen, because sometimes we just have to have our ego shut down, and we need to listen to other people. And I have learned that the hard way, and I hope the same doesn't happen for you. So I'm also, because I come from the trades, math was always interesting to me, and trigonometry, geometry was easy for me. So numbers were somewhat easy for me. And so what the next thing was financials, and so I'm a nerd for that. I'm a member of 900 consultants across the world that consult in this very stuff that we're talking about here today. And I will say I don't know everything. I'm a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all, and this gives me the ability to, if I don't have an answer for you, I can get it within a phone call. I'm a business podcast host, so I've got 2 podcasts, the Metal, Steel, Manufacturing and Business Pro podcast, and the Business of Finance podcast, where we discuss many, many things in business. I'm passionate about it. I spend a lot of my time talking to people about it, reading books, listening to podcasts, and helping others, helping you. And also, in addition to that, I do another podcast where we discuss some of life's biggest problems. And so helping people, for me, is what it's all about. That's how the world works. It took me a long time to figure it out, but I'm finally there, and I'm loving it. So I'm 21 years in metals and manufacturing and 5 in management. So I worked all the way up from sweeping the floors, being the gopher, being called lots of things, to being in management and being called lots of things there too, but certainly wore a lot of different hats: sales, marketing, management, some of the quoting and design work. So I'm a learn-it-all, know-it-all, like I said. Not a know-it-all. I'm a learn-it-all. And I'm a family man. I've got a wife and 2 beautiful children that I absolutely adore. So I already have the motivation, but they certainly help. So when I thought, okay, how can I really help my industry and help my people, which are, the metals and manufacturing people, and I like helping people in general anyway, how can I really add value? So I needed to get some market research to figure out what's happening out there. So I did a survey. And in this survey, we got some interesting results. So let me share those with you. What's this? Let's just get rid of that. So here's the survey, okay? So we had, I got a spiel, right? I'm not going to read it to you, but what we get to is, what are your biggest struggles in business today? And this was done just in November. So find and keep good people, increase sales and profits, succession and tax planning, uniqueness in a saturated market. Yes, I only got 23 votes, but it's still information, right? And I did this in many other platforms, which I can show you. So we've got Reddit, we've got many places we can go look at where I did the, where I did the same survey asking the same questions, right? So here we got 25, finding and keeping good people, increasing sales and profits, being unique in a saturated market. But we can see that the top of all of this is finding and keeping good people. So that's what this is all about, because that's the struggles that everybody's going through. We need to listen to the market, to the people, to our clients, what they want. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm hoping that rubs off. Not that I have all the answers, but there's some things I'm good at, and it's recognizing patterns. And this is a pattern that really works well for a lot of companies, is that they reach out to their clients and ask them, what do they need that we don't offer, and then create something around that. So if you look, I'd probably have to, if we go back, we just zoom in a little bit on this, you can see. So a lot of these things, increasing sales and profits, being unique in a saturated market. These two here actually can be correlated. All of it can be correlated, and we can talk a lot about that going forward. And that's really exciting for me, that the market now, of course, I couldn't have too many options, because you give people too many options, then they don't do anything. But we can see there's quite a bit of results, but finding and keeping good people is the top of that list. So there's the proof. So how do we keep good people? How do we keep them? Leadership. Like I said at the beginning, people follow leaders who know where they're going. And this is proven time and time again. Apologies, I didn't switch the slide over. People follow leaders who know where they're going. Leaders know why their business does what it does and where it's going. And what comes into that is, once you know, and this is where the financial end of it is important, is when you learn your financials, you can look at it and say, okay, well, there's cost of goods sold. That's telling me this, which I will tell you later. And I can look at the business within a second and say, okay, this is out of the norm. And then it creates a question of why. And then that creates a roadmap. And then that creates a system and planning, which shows your people that you have a plan, that you're organized. And I recently did a podcast with a NASCAR guy. And one of the biggest takeaways was winning teams. Those pit crews, they practice, they know where they're going, then everything, they know every single step, and they have systems and planning, and they know why they're doing it. And the leadership knows where they're going, which is, let's win the race. And then what comes into that is market dominating positions. And we will talk about this, but it is really what's in the word, market dominating position. You're looking to dominate the market, but there's a strategy around that. There's a reason, there's a way to do that. Unique selling propositions. This is how you attract talent in 2022 and beyond, giving people purpose and why. Why are we here? And it does not need to be life-changing, world-changing. We're going to solve all the life's problems by our business. It can be as simple as finding the why. Or it could be as simple as we want to make more widgets this year than we did last year. Or we want to make more profit. Having monetary goals is not a bad thing at all. It's better if it's wrapped in a great altruistic motivation, because at the end of the day, it's never about money. It's about something more than that. It's like, I want security. I want freedom. I want to do what I do whenever I want to do it, which is freedom. So it's getting to those whys. It's the 5 whys. Somebody taught me always to ask 5 whys. Why this? Then they'll drill it down further with a why and a why and a why. But all of this is to give you the start point and a mindset about being aware to ask why. Why are we doing what we're doing? And then you create that clarity for your whole team, which is what leadership is. So people aren't lazy and stupid, and I always stand up for the people. I am the people. I've been sweeping the floors. I've done the paint. I've done all of the stuff that sucks. And I've done the stuff that sucks in different ways. People are people. We're all part of the same population, so we need to work together. We need to stop judging. People aren't stupid or lazy. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know what you think a good job is unless you communicate that. And if they don't, they don't know that. And if they don't know that, they're going to come up with their own answer because they're afraid to bother you, or you're not around, you're somewhere else, or your other things are more important because you're not showing them that you care enough to listen to their point of view. So it becomes, there's tacit approval within an organization that you start acting away and treating other people that way, that other people see that, and then they act that way too. Communication, this is, back to those 2 points. Communication is key. All the highly successful people and organizations have great organization around communication, which creates a roadmap for people. Systems. Because people want to be led. They want to follow somebody who's leading. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We'll go through that. Understanding your finances is the way, utilizing data you already have in your business to asking the questions and understanding the roadmap within your business. But don't take my word for it. There is a gentleman, Abraham Maslow, that is a lot smarter than I am, was a lot smarter than I am, that wrote a paper in 1943 called A Theory of Human Motivation. So this creates, this is a hierarchy, a triangle. Actions are motivated by a desire to meet specific needs. So we start at the bottom. We start with food, shelter, safety, all of these things, and then what comes after that is, things we find in the workplace. People want to be a part of a group. People want to be a part of being led. And understanding that through knowing your financials is key. So let's identify those needs. So the 5 needs go in order from the bottom to the top. Once one is fulfilled, the next comes from the bottom up. So like we said, so it comes from the bottom up, right? So survival is the first thing, right? So if you're dying of dehydration, you're not going to be worrying about belonging to a group or engaged in importance in the workplace, right? So you're worried about survival. So it goes all the way up there. Security. So are your needs taken care of? And then after that, and in most cases, these bottom two are mostly true all the time. And then we go up to 3 and 4, or excuse me, 3, 2, and 1 is where you start to see the impact in an organization where people want to be a part of a group because they want to belong to something. And then they become motivated and engaged because the leader has a direction. They know where they're going, so the people know where they're going because there's systems and organization and plans in place to keep going there. So, and then we get to the, highly engaged. So all the way moving from bottom to the top, people become more motivated to succeed in that organization and make the organization succeed as a whole. So employees can be the greatest assets or its biggest liability. Which one do you want? I mean, really, think about that. Which one do you want? We want the biggest assets, and they are the biggest assets. Businesses don't run without people. And that will be true forever, I believe. I don't care if there's artificial intelligence, machine learning. That's just going to eliminate a lot of the redundant tasks that nobody likes doing anyway, so we can all add value. But their underperformance can be, all the things that affect that hierarchy, right? So, what is their skill set? What are their personal problems? Vague expectations, lack of process knowledge. They are physically or mentally cannot do the job, not a culture fit, complacency. So we have a system that will figure all this out for you. Obviously not figure it all out. There's still some input that's required from you. But we have a system that if you follow me, you probably know about, but certainly willing to have a conversation about that. And a lot of it's done for you. It's turnkey. It's software that comes from 45 million, I believe, 45 million data points to put this all together for you. So those two items relate, but this is not an entire course about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a general overview. So we all know winners, and success leaves clues. And if you've been around for the past, 25, 30 years, like I have, you know all these names, right? And there's so many more that could go on that list, but these are the ones I chose. But what do they all have in common? What is the one thing that they all have in common? They may have many other things, but for the purpose of this presentation, they all have one thing in common. Practice. They all practice and have all their lives. They practice. Michael Jordan is famous for that. For many other things too, but he's famous for being on the court, doing the work, putting the practice in, putting the work in. And I say, why should your business be any different? They're in business. It's just a different type of business. You're in business. It's a different business than theirs, but practice is what makes you the best. And that's why these people are the best that they are. Because they put in a lot of practice. So success leaves clues. And the clue is, in this case, practice. So success isn't always monetarily. It can be. Doesn't have to be anything else, but it's all dependent on anybody's certain situation. And the accomplishment of an aim or purpose could be for you today is increasing profits, or leading the people and keeping the people, or it's maybe just finding the why. Maybe the first little bit that you heard was like, oh, maybe I don't know my why. This is resonating, but I don't know how to find my why. So those are things that, we can help with. But I think the biggest thing is this. This is something an advisor and mentor says to me all the time. No one cares until they know you care about them. And there's never been truer words said. Just test it. Test it. It's true. Show people you care, and show them through your leadership and understanding your financials and creating that roadmap in front of you to ask the right questions, because people aren't stupid. People can see through a business owner that cares or doesn't care. So with that, we have some small business facts, which you probably all mostly know already, but I'll share them anyway. 60% or more of jobs in North America are created by small businesses. 90% of those fail in the first 5 years, and then another 90% of those survivors fail in the second 5 years. So that's not good. So we need every single advantage we can get to make our business sustainable in a financial way, in an employee way. We need all the help we can get. I need all the help I can get. We all need to admit that we don't know anything, very little, and go to anybody that's willing to help us. So that's what I'm here to do. Less than 5% ever reach 1 million plus in sales. And this last point here goes to some of the other things I do, but also to you, where at some point you're going to want to sell your business. It's good to know that business brokers don't sell businesses a lot of times, but it's not always them. It's not always... there's so many factors in it that it doesn't sell, and a lot of it has to do with the way the business is set up or not structured, or what systems are in place. Because when a buyer comes in, they're looking at all of the things that we consult on, which is systems, so that if the business owner leaves tomorrow, everything's going to be okay. The financials are running smoothly. The profit margins are there. That means you get a higher valuation too, which they don't mind paying for. If the value's there. So how do we get there? What do we got to think about? We got to think about a long-term strategy. What are you ultimately trying to do? What do you want to be remembered for? What's your legacy? And certainly these examples here are good indicators of how companies now that are the largest in the world started to think about these things. And this is proof. And I'm not saying you're going to be Google. Maybe you are. I'm not sure. But the point is, a lot of their success was contributed to the fact they had clarity on where they're going. So that makes sense, right? Google, to organize all the world's information in one place. Amazon was very client, customer, still is focused, so they didn't wait around for their competitors to dictate to them. They listened to their clients. They asked and designed what their clients were looking for. And today it's great. You can have an upsell to buying something getting something delivered faster. So Elon Musk's model was interesting. He funded his lesser expensive car now starting with a higher price model, which is really kind of backwards to a lot of things I've seen. And what the beauty of this is that it provides more profits for the end goals of the lesser expensive car, but it also creates if you've ever been in sales, you know that downselling is a lot easier than upselling. So if he's all his marketing is going towards the higher price product, and you're already sold on that, but price is actually an issue, but and we'll talk about that it's not, it's usually emotions, then the downsell is so much easier. Plus, from a financial point of view, if you're spending all your money on marketing a higher end product, you're putting everything into that, then your budgeting is going to be more accurate for when you go down the model for marketing smaller, lower end products. So it's not about price. Never, ever is about price. We'll get into that. So what are we thinking? What do we got to be thinking? What's the end game? Transition, valuation, structure. If you ever want to sell your business, you need to know. What is your plan? What's the valuation? What's the structure? So, how do we get to long-term strategy? We start with why. We start with why are we here? Start with knowing our financials, which creates a roadmap to understanding the short-term goals to get to the long-term. And Google, I mean, look at Google, for example, to organize all the world's information in one place. That's their why. All of these are their whys. Why are we doing what we're doing? So market dominating position and blue ocean strategies. So what blue ocean strategies are is there's a red ocean and a blue ocean. In the red ocean, everybody's competing on price. Everybody's competing over the same market, over the same customers, same clients. So in that water, there's a lot of blood because they're all fighting. The market dominating position creates a blue ocean where you're not competing on anything. So the waters aren't red, they're blue, where you're competing on very little, which results in so many other things that we're going to talk about. So what is a market dominating position? I want to give some examples, and I kind of explained it there, but I also want to give you examples for really to resonate, to sink in. Harley Davidson motorcycles. We all know what a Harley Davidson motorcycle is, yes? I would think so. You can buy the same motorcycle, same style, same whatever, the look that you're going for from rival brands, right? For half the price, 3/4 of the price. But why don't you? Why don't people? I'll tell you why. Because Harley Davidson has created an emotional connection to their product. It creates an image. It's a culture that comes along with the motorcycle. So you're emotionally invested in spending that extra 25-50% on that motorcycle because you get a lot more from it than what the money's worth to you, which is, acceptance into a group, or you looked at in a certain way, which makes you feel whatever. So this is an example of a market dominating position. This is an example of a blue ocean strategy. This is an example that it's not about price. And rarely is it ever about price. And it also creates network effects. And what network effects is people start talking about things they're emotional about. Cell phones do this. Expensive bags do this. Harley Davidson motorcycles do this. And cell phones back in the 80s and 90s, you were perceived as cool, I suppose, because nobody else had them. And that perpetually changed because people started to talk about them because they're emotionally involved with them. So that's what network effects is. You can look it up, but more or less that's just what happens. When something really interesting, really cool happens, and people continue to talk about it. Tesla's a good example of that too. Yeah. As I said, it applies to all those things. Handbags, which I don't understand. But many women do understand, or men, I suppose. Coffee, why would somebody go to Starbucks versus Dunkin' Donuts or Tim Hortons or whatever, right? There's something that comes along with that coffee that's worth more than the dollars in the pocket. Jewelry, smartphones, Apple's done this versus Android. Domino's Pizza, they created this for their clients because their target market was the college student. So fresh hot pizza delivered in 30 minutes or less, or it's free. So they had college students that were doing what they do until midnight, and they wanted pizza quickly. So they dominated the market because they came up with this based on what their clients wanted. And they did very, very well. Became one of the dominant brands of pizza in North America, at least. So this makes sense. I hope it really resonates and makes sense on an emotional level. Because these are, real things that we see in the world, right? So what is business growth? What is it? What is it? Most of us say, and we've touched on this a little bit, most of us would say it's one of these two things. And there's going to be arguments on this, and that's fine. But is it revenue or is it profit? I would say this. Revenue, the amount of sales generated feeds your ego. Okay? Profit is money to feed your family and legacy. I hope everybody understands that. Because that hits home. Literally. So, understanding your financials. Some simple things. Revenue. Why do we use this to measure other things? Well, because without revenue, without any dollars, you got nothing. You got expenses only. There's nothing to measure against. This is our top line. This is what we measure everything against. Pricing. What strategy are you using? Are you using a strategy? Or are you just doing what somebody else does, which isn't always the best way? So we'll explore what the experts use. We'll explore the right way to use markup. It's not even markup, it's called margin, and using that. Cost of goods sold. What does this measurement tell you? What are the benchmarks? This information is readily available. And variable costs. I mean, the variable costs, that's what we call cost of goods sold, or cost of sales is sometimes called. Variable costs are the things that change along with the revenue. They're the things that if you're making widget Mark 1, then you sell that, and your cost of goods sold are the costs to make that. So the materials, the labor, those sorts of things. Break-even point, one of the most important numbers in a financial statement or in a financial spreadsheet or in a spreadsheet. It can be represented on its own. Break-even point is something that you'll get from this. We're going to touch on it here shortly. Gross profit, obviously heavily correlated to cost of goods sold, because it's revenue minus cost of goods sold to get your gross profit, which tells you a lot about a business. It tells you efficiency, and so does cost of goods sold. They're just negatives of each other. So it tells you a lot. And it also, allocation. Where are the expenses allocated in the business? I mean, there's some businesses don't have cost of goods sold. It's more overhead. So fixed costs. Fixed costs are the things that never change. If somebody's on salary versus somebody that's getting paid by the hour, It depends. It dictates which place they go into on the statement, on the profit and loss. It doesn't have to, but it's recommended that they are. So EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So why is this used? We've heard about it. Why is this used in business valuation? And it's as simple as this. It's because it's one benchmark across the world. Everything can be measured by EBITDA because you're not affected by local things like taxes, things that can be changed or adjusted. Not taxes I'm talking about, but depreciation and amortization and interest. I mean, these things need to go back in to make a level playing field on business valuation. And then what comes along with that is valuation multiples. So we take this number times, let's say 3 times EBITDA, indicates a valuation of X. And the numbers, the lower the number means the higher risk it is. So you hear about recurring revenue businesses, high-tech companies, they're 20 to 30 to whatever it is, valuation multiples. This is because they're scalable, because less risk, and they're digital. So, there's not a lot of bricks. It's the risk factor. There's less risk. Net profit. What is standard for your area? What is standard for your business? What's low? What's high? Knowing your benchmarks, knowing this stuff off the top of your head is key. Yeah. So 10%. We could say that's okay. That's pretty average actually. Standard. I would say we want to shoot higher than that. We want to shoot higher than 10, but 10% is standard. High is 20% is considered 20% is considered high, which I don't agree with. But that is, if you Google it, that's what it says. So why should we care about business finance? Why should we care? Well, I'll tell you, of course. It's a scorecard. If you know what you're looking at in your financials, and this is stuff we'll teach you about 8 modules about business, reading your financials and what everything means, and actually building your P&L from scratch, which is not as hard as you might think. It's quite simple. It's a scorecard. So when you know what these things mean, they lead to questions. And the questions lead to knowing why things are happening the way they are, which lead to knowing your business better, which lead to your people knowing that you know what's going on, which leads to you being a leader. Highlights what's working and what isn't. Like I said, it shows you things you can't see in your business unless you're looking at the financials. And again, the beauty of the financials are you already have this data. You don't have to put in a new camera system. You don't have to have a whole bunch of different KPI things, which are great, but maybe you're not sophisticated enough or care about that. But you already have financials because that's what we run businesses on. So it helps you measure and control. What gets measured gets controlled. Of course, we've all heard that, and that's true. It helps the planning process. So the control and the measures and measuring controls and planning the processes all comes from understanding your financials. And if you ever go to sell your business, if you ever have a buyer come in that's, knows a few things, has investors or whatever, he's going to want to know. He's going to want to see quickly tell me what your business does. They don't want to sit down and read it. Just sometimes they just want to have a conversation. Okay, what's your revenue? What's your gross profit? What's your expenses? What's your EBITDA? What's your net? And wouldn't you stand out as a guy selling his business if you knew those numbers? And I know you will stand out because Nobody knows those numbers. Even the businesses you think would know that don't. And I know that because I talk to them and ask them these questions. And it's always, do you mean gross profit or do you mean net profit? Which are two entirely different things. And your competitors don't have a clue, like I just said. So you want to stand out, you want to win, you want your people to believe in you and your vision and why, and include them in that. Your vision doesn't have to be just about you. It could be about your people, and you collaborate on that. Create authorship. All this stuff adds up to you having a clue and showing your people that you have one. So how do we look at these financial statements and quickly come to a realization? We think in percentages. That's it. So you're going to see your P&L, and there's going to be all these things like, oh, I got all these numbers. Well, yeah, absolutely. Anybody would, unless you're a genius. But that's why we use percentages. So you can see those fluctuations easily. Which leads to asking why, asking the questions. Why is this fluctuated 1, 2, 10? Hopefully not any more than that in a percentage point. So, a myth, potentially. Business finance is accounting. Is that a myth? Yes, it is a myth. They're two different things, equally as important. CPAs and business managers both have different roles, equally as important, but just look at things differently. So, CPAs, they're looking at, they get into the weeds, and I don't need to read all this stuff to you. I guess I could. General ledger, trial balances, how to construct, all the construction, the details, the weeds, the putting everything together and balancing it. And then all of the auditing stuff, the IRS, the CRA, GAAP guidelines, and these are the things that they do, and then we need that. But they're not looking at the overall and asking the questions because they don't have any insight into the business. I'm not saying they don't know business, they just don't know your business specifically. So that's where business management looks at it differently, to ask the questions against budgets. On this, and then what are our budgets doing? Why are they higher? Why are they lower? How to extract the data? Why is our cost of goods sold down? Why is it up? Why is our revenue up? Why is our revenue down? Why are the expenses? Why do we have leakage in our expenses? Is our payroll, our bookkeeper stealing from us? And watching these things, if you're watching them, then you'll pick up on it real quick. And if you're using percentage points, you'll pick up on it even quicker. This doesn't have to take a lot of time out of your day, but it's important to know rule of thumbs in your industry. Where are you good with cost of goods sold? All of these numbers are out there to find, and I can show you where to find them. Back to tracking performance against. So if you want your team to really do better, and you feel that competition's the way to do that in your organization, you could, gamify it and have, okay, this month this team did this. Okay, team B, try and beat these guys, etc. The possibilities are endless once you know this stuff. So, So, and then I want to get into this. This is like an age-old. As long as it's been around, the age-old argument has been around since I've been talking about business. So I wanted to touch on it. I'm sure you all know, but we're going to go here anyway. So markup versus margin. Right? This is one of the simplest things in business. We have a product we want to sell for a profit, right? Obviously. We want to make 50% on it. Does that sound good? Okay, that's pretty good. 50%. So if we multiply it by 1.5 to make our profit, that's what we usually do, right? Right. No, this is bad because it doesn't give you 50% profit. It gives you 50% markup. but it doesn't give you 50% profit. You can do this, but don't expect 50% profit. Let me show you why. So if we go, excuse me, paper cam, we'll just start here. So if we got $100, right? We want to do a markup of 50%. You know, we got $150, right? $150. I'll just verify it on the calculator here. Let's make sure there's no tomfoolery going on. 150. 100 times 150, or 1.5, excuse me. 150. Okay. So then you take 150 divided by 50. You understand what I'm doing there? 150. So we're left. So we wanted the $50. We made $50 on top of the 150, right? So we got $50 on top of the 100, which gives us 150 divided by, that's what this means, divided by 50. So, excuse me, 50, which is the same difference, is 33%. So your profit margin is actually 33%. Okay? So, for simple numbers, let's say we'll just go through that again. If we multiply that by 1.5, we get 150, right? But if we divide 50 into 150, do we get 50%? No, we just showed you that. No, it's 33%. This is why we don't use markup. We don't use markup because you are not, at the end of the year, you've been thinking the whole time, oh, I'm going to make 50%. I'm going to make 50% at the end of the year because I've been marking up 50%. Well, you're not. You're going to get 33% at the end of the year. So it's inaccurate. So what do we do? This is how we do it. Using the same numbers, $100 item with a desired 50% profit margin. That's a really good profit margin. It's also a good example because it's simple numbers. We take the $100 and divide it by 50%, equaling 200. So if we check our work, the result is 50% profit margin. We use margin, not markup. Okay? So, we go 100. Oh, I gotta go to the camera here. So if we go 100 divided by 0.5, it's $200, okay? And we could use anything. It could be $100. Let's say we wanted to do, let's do this. $100. So I want to make 30% and divide it by 0.6. 166. If you have questions on that, I'm always available to answer your questions. But this is how we get to a stable profit margin within a business. So, willing to show that to you one-on-one, free of cost. So back to the presentation. We use margin, not markup. Okay, so then we get into, let's just talk about the P&L. And we have a program that helps us put this together. We have a training program on how to build this. And the reason to build this really helps you understand how the numbers are derived to. But, simply put, this may not do justice, but we've got $1 million. Okay. I'm kind of in the way, aren't I? got all right. Well, anyway, our revenue, income, sales is $1 million. Our cost of goods sold is $600,000. Those minus each other. It's $400,000, which gives us, that divided into that's 40%. Okay. Then we have our fixed costs, our expenses, our overhead. It's called many things, of $200,000. So we got 20%, 200,000 minus 400,000. We're left with 200,000. So we go 200,000 divided into $1 million gives us 20%. And those are round, easy numbers, but it all works the same for your P&L statement. Absolutely willing to help you understand that too. But this brings us to the break-even point, and this, as I said, is extremely important to understand. This here, as you see, the break-even points to the break-even point. Okay. So our total costs run on this line, right? So our total costs running on this line here that starts at this red squiggly mark. That's our cost of operating the business. Our revenue right here starts at the bottom, $0. So you make some sales, right? It's like, oh, finally, the sales guy made some sales. Yay. Excuse me. And then our costs, total costs, intersect with the revenue right here. That's our break-even point. That is our break-even point. And then above that, we have what we call the golden triangle, which is this yellow, goldish triangle. Okay? So this section here accounts for a percentage of the dollars, which means a profit, right? So in here, before the break-even point, it's a loss. Okay, it's a loss. You're not doing it. Nothing's happening. You're climbing up there. Your revenue's getting there, and it's going to intersect with your total costs. And once you hit that point, you're at zero. You're breaking even. You have zero profit. You have zero loss. You're at your break-even point. And then you get into the profit zone, which is where we always want to be. But there's ways to make this better. Back to our question, what do we do? What do we increase? What is better, increasing revenue or increasing profits? Traditional technique says we should increase volume, sales, income, revenue, all that top line stuff. Traditionally, they'd all say, let's increase that. But does it make more money in the business? Does the golden triangle get affected if we increase the revenue alone? That's the question, isn't it? The other issues that come from this are when your revenue increases, a lot of times what happens, and I've mentioned this before, is your costs, your investment costs, financing costs on the balance sheet increase, which also decrease your profits because you need to make double the amount of widgets. But to do that, you have to buy a new truck or a new piece of equipment or whatever it is. So is it scalable? Maybe, maybe not. This is why when you get back to the valuation multiples, when it's scaling, technology is so much easier than scaling bricks and mortar. And that's why the valuation and risks. The valuation's higher, the risk is lower. So you don't need more bricks. You don't need more pieces of equipment. Digital is reproducible very easily. So does this affect your scalability and profits? Not really. And your percentage stays the same. The numbers get bigger if you increase your revenue. But these lines, your total cost line, stays in line with the increase revenue, right? They stay in line. So does it mean more profit? The dollars may go up in percentages. If we're thinking in percentages, like I suggested, then no. So what does raising prices mean? Oh my God, raise prices. I could never do that. I lose all my customers. Well, let me tell you here in a couple slides that that's not true. I'll prove it to you. But raising prices shortens that loss period, brings down your break-even point, and increases that golden triangle. This, I know it's not gold here, but I'm gonna outline it with my pointer. See that triangle? The size change compared to the other one, right? So this spread here is a higher percentage than this one. So the prices, Mythbuster 1, raising prices is bad because I'll lose customers. Mythbuster 2, lower prices are good because I'll get more customers. Is that true? Do you think that's true? Does anybody here think that that's true? Is it a trick question? That is the question, isn't it? How do we be sure? Let's take a look at this. So, price change analysis, effects of price change. A $60 cost product. That's what it costs you to make it. And you're selling it for $100. Okay? So you're going to sell you're going to sell 50 at $100, which equals $5,000. So your cost is 60 times 50 gives you 3,000, right? So this minus this is $2,000 in profit, okay? So let's say somebody listened to this presentation, and Greg, he's a very confident guy, you know, he seems to know what he's talking about. Let's give it a shot. They increase their pricing, okay, to plus 15%, which isn't a lot, especially in today's market because everything's going up in price. This is a perfect opportunity for you to raise prices. But the sales went down. You were right. You lost a customer. You lost 10% of your customers, which is, let's say that's a lot. Let's say it's not. Maybe it's only one. You lost one, but you probably didn't like them anyway, more than likely. But what do we see here? Revenue. The revenue. This timing thing is really annoying. So the revenue went up. Okay. Our cost went down because we're making less units. But our profit went up 23.75% for doing less work because we only went up 15%. That shows you that even if you do, and you're right, you may lose a customer or two, maybe you won't. I don't know. If you position it properly, you probably won't. Then it's still profitable. But let's say you didn't listen. You're like, you know what? I'm just going to lower prices. And, you know, Greg doesn't know what he's talking about. I know everything. And I'm going to prove him wrong. You're going to prove me wrong. That's fine. I bring on the challenge. But here's an example. Somebody already tried to do that. The price goes down 10%. The volume goes up 60% because you were right. You were right. You sold more at a lesser price, which brought your revenue up, which fed your ego. You feel really good about yourself. But your cost went up, which resulted in negative 10% profits, which means less profit than where you started from. So you're doing more work for less profit. Let's take it a step further. You went up to 15% on your price, and you lost even more. You lost 20% of your clients, which resulted in less work, which resulted in less cost, which still resulted in $2,200 in profit, which is plus 10% from where you started from. All these numbers are correlated to the first line, the blue line. So what do you think you should do? That would be my question to you. Should you lower your price and sell more? Or should you increase your price because the timing is right to increase your price because everything is increasing in price, so why not increase yours? And do less work and still make more money. That's what we talk about here. Profit is where it's at. Revenue is great for your ego, but profit feeds your family and your legacy. So what if we increase the angle, lower the break-even point? What if we can, bring all these things together into one place on your financial statements? So, why it does that? So we have lowering our total costs, which is this line here. We lower our costs, which we have ways to show you how to do, which aren't rocket science. It's just having the focus. And that's the thing about all this stuff is you're so entrenched in your business. And you got so many things going on. And sometimes it takes somebody coming from the outside looking in to say, this is what we can do here. And it's just like you going to your clients. And they're so busy in their business that they can't design the thing that they need designed because they don't have time or whatever it is. If it's whatever your product is or service, there's a reason to hire you, right? Well, we're the same thing. We understand this stuff. We see it. We can look at it. We're not biased because we're not in it like you. So what if we increase the angle both ways like we show here? That increases that golden triangle tremendously, which means your profit margins are much larger. Compounding the results. What if we can leverage the compounding results? What will happen if you combine the pricing, revenue, and lowering costs? What do you think will happen? Things will be amazing. So if you're saying the following, or know somebody that is, we've all said these things. Look, I'm just as guilty as the next guy of being in trouble. And these things never sort themselves out. They never go away. If you're saying these things, I don't need to read them to you. But there may be a problem. More than likely there is. And we can help you with that. So, or we can improve something that's already working for you. So yeah. So that's if you're saying these things or know somebody that is, we can help you. So what does leadership look like? It's a person that you look up to. From the beginning, the very first thing we started with was, who's that leader that you look to in your life? And what are those words that resonate with you? And those are actually words coming from you. And those are qualities you possess. And that's what you can be as a leader. That's what leaders look like. Leaders know where they're going. They know why they're going there. And people follow them. It creates a culture. Of trust and transparency. And that is paramount in business today. And if you can just do what you say you're going to do today more than ever, you will stand out like a sore thumb. And that's a good thing. Because all the markets are saturated, not just yours. All of them are. The results from being a leader is people will follow you just like you follow that person that you admire the most. They will go into battle for you. That's the results. Things will start to happen internally that you had no idea would happen because you showed them that you care about them by leading them and knowing your stuff. Because they're not dumb or stupid. They see. So how do we make you a business leader? How do we do that? How do we make you charge more money for your services? It's easier than you think. It's not simple, but it's not. It's it's not. We're not sending a spaceship to Mars here. So, charge more money. Dominate your market, which also affects pricing, and your competition becomes less of an issue. You would be surprised, and I was too. I did a sales training course through many different programs, one being Grant Cardone, and reading sales books and all of this stuff. I am telling you from personal experience that it made all the difference in the world of how I communicated with people. And it just changed my game. So the power of education and sales, and anything for that matter, makes all the difference. So compelling offers to increase sales and profits, so your clients have no reason to go anywhere else. No reason. We can put that together for you. The power of joint ventures. Work with locals to dominate your local market. So you find things that are in parallel to what you do, and you make a joint venture with them. Or they, you both have to work together, obviously. So they got to be both parallel things. But there's tons of examples of this in the real world. So we take a McDonald's and Walmart. I know it's a big example, but it's an example that you can point to and say, oh yeah, that makes sense. How can I do that on a smaller scale in my local market? What they did is obvious, it's brilliant, and increases revenue for both of them. It's debatable which one makes more, but it's a great idea. So joint ventures, where it's at. And I have a philosophy that we all need to share in the wealth. People are divided enough as it is today. Let's work together. Let's make our communities better by working together instead of competing so viciously with each other. Content marketing. So we've got the way to be top of mind at all times and to automate that for your clients. So when they think of this product or service or widget or whatever it is, you're top of mind. You're the person they think of because you have been in front of them in the past day or two. So we automate that with your clients. Deeper financial training. So more training. The more understanding you can have, education in how your business is running, the more you can stand out in your market because you understand what's happening with the products. And then you can do fun things like separate what's profitable, what isn't, and then we need to slow this down, we need to speed this up because the profits here are way better. And then maybe there's lost leaders that, okay, we did this for so much, so it didn't make us profit, but we do that once and that gets us in the door, and then we bring in the other thing, right? So there's ways to get creative with it, as long as you're aware of it. That's the key thing here. Awareness. So how to be different and why it's important, because again, saturated market. You saw it in the survey that I did. A lot of people are looking, they want to be different because every market's so saturated. We can help you design that. And you know what? We don't even have to help you design that. Even if you understand your financials, you're going to be different. because you're going to understand your business on a whole new level. So all of this increases, knowing these things and putting these systems in place, increase your company's value. So when it gets time, you want to move on and do something else with your life, which will happen, the value of the company will be higher. So you get more money. We all want more money. So I can show you how to do that. So I just thought it was important for me to share my personal mission. I aim to bring more value, care, and innovation and speed to the world. In my time, I've discovered that client service is a secret to the success of any company. I've always and want to always be a part of a group or organization that does these things and does what they say they're going to do. And that's a hint. I want to work with companies that are serious, that want to do things, not just talk about doing things, and serving platitudes to whether it's their shareholders, their investors, but most importantly, their clients. We need to do what we say we're going to do. I figure if I'm successful, and the people around me are successful, that'll be a ripple effect. Everybody around us will all be successful. So, like I say there, my mission is to make the people around me successful. And if they are thriving, by default, I will be too. So, we all got to win. We all got to be... there's nothing wrong with making money. And I feel that this day and age, there's some kind of bad taste in people's mouths about money. We all got to win. We all got to come out ahead. We're all here to make money, but we're all here to change things and make things better and progress as a race, as a people. So I challenge you. Survey your people and ask, what is the purpose of what we do as a company? Is it obvious why we do what we do? Are the directions management or ownership provide clear, and why? Do you care? If yes, and why? So, you don't have to follow these questions, but my point here is talk to your employees. Well, talk to your clients too, but talk to your employees to get a real sense of what's happening in the company, because they know it better than you do. I hate to say it to you, I'm sorry, but they do. Because they're in it every single day. They're talking with people. They're talking to each other on the floor. They know what's working and what isn't. Because again, people aren't dumb. So ask them, survey them, understand your business intimately, and involve them and how to make it better. So what's the value that I bring, that we bring, the group that I'm a part of, or myself? So let's do the example of if I added a minimum 5% to your profit and you're making, $500K profit, we've added $25K to your bottom line, which already pays for me or whomever. So these are the terms we need to be thinking. But again, to that, if we implemented all the strategies, and be absolutely delighted to go through that with anybody of all the things that we do, we can double your profits. So with that example of the 500K, that would mean that we're going to double your profits, which means you have $1 million in profits. So that definitely pays for anything and then some. Whoops. So, and then combine this with many other strategies that we do. You will be the go-to company in your market. You will be the leader in the marketplace of your local community, maybe even bigger than that, provincially, nationally, statewide, worldwide. Who knows? There's a lot of great thinkers out there. So you become unstoppable and unique. And we've shown you here, and willing to go into length about how to motivate your people and putting systems into place to really encourage mindsets of change and profitability and education. I would encourage education, financial education throughout the organization, so everybody understands, because that's always one of the biggest hurdles is the employees think, oh, the owners are making so much money, when sometimes they're not. And it's simply because the people don't understand how it all works. So, and I believe if there's transparency and there's leadership by you, people will follow you and they will talk about your company. They'll talk about you, they'll talk about the company and be proud of where they work. I've been in this situation, and it's always nice to come home and talk positively and be proud of where you work, because it happens. Network affects the community. People hear about these things, and the perception becomes it's a great place to work. They must be doing something right, so let's buy things from them because it supports my friend or my family member or whatever it is. Now, what if we compound these strategies that make you even more unique? I mean, the possibilities are endless, and streamlines your business to be more valuable for when you exit, but not even just exiting. If you want to grow it and the value is there, the bankers are more likely to loan the money to you because there's more to leverage. So it is win-win, and you'd be crazy not to do something, in my opinion. But that's just me. So here's what we'll cover. If we get to the next level, these are some of the things that we talk about. Understanding the power of P&L statements, options for increasing revenue. I don't need to read through them all. You can read them. You can all read. You're very smart people. But this is what as a start point for working together. So happy to share that with you after, but here's my offer. So $9.97 Canadian dollars one-time payment for the year, and a lot comes with that. So spreadsheets, classes, internet marketing, sales letters, profitable headlines. I mean, all of these things, they may not seem pertinent at this point in time, but they are, because once you start understanding your financials, you start thinking, okay, what are the other things I can do? And that's where this stuff comes in. We have so much more than this, but this is where it starts. That's my offer, and certainly open to having conversation. You can call me at the phone number here. Phone number, oh geez, I can't do that. Phone number here. And you can find me on LinkedIn and sellingworks.com, our financial training, which is where you'll find this price at that link. But if you see that QR code above me there, I can point to that one. That, if you scan that with your phone, it'll take you directly to the web page. So one last thing, if you're worried about the cost, this is tax deductible. It can be a business expense. So if there's any worry of the cost, then it can be tax deductible to go against profits. So that's it. That's the presentation, and I thank you very much for attending my presentation. And you did see at the beginning, I hope that I do have a fundraising thing going on for donations to addiction and mental health for a family member. My goal is $10,000, so go jump over there if you want to donate. If you don't, that's okay too, no problem. But I appreciate your time, and I hope you got something of value from this. And you can always give me a call at your convenience. Send me an email, whatever you want to do. Here for you. Thanks. Have a good one, and a Merry Christmas.